Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the first of our Ramadan Speaker series. Today we're fortunate enough to be joined by Sayid Jafar Milani, who's a very knowledgeable and well-read speaker who we've been lucky enough to have with us in the past, delivering a fantastic talk on Back to Basics with Salah, which everyone really benefited from, inshallah. So today he's going to be talking to us about how we can make the most of the holy month of Ramadan as Muslims. Which is approaching soon, inshallah. So on the agenda, we'll be starting with some Quran recitations from Qara of Surah Al-Baqarah, and then we'll be joined by Sayid Jafar for this talk. So I'll pass it to Qara for the recitations.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكمروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون أحل لكم ليلة الصيام الرفث إلى نسائكم هن لباس لكم وأنتم لباس لهن علم الله أنكم كنتم تختانون أنفسكم فتاب عليكم وعفى عنكم فالآن باشروهن وابتغوا ما كتب الله لكم وكلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل ولا تباشروهن وأنتم عاكفون في المساجد تلك حدود الله فلا تقربوها كذلك يبين الله آياته للناس لعلهم يتقون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
صدق الله العلي العظيم. So thank you for that recitation, Clara. I'm going to pass it to Sayid. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Microphone is muted.
Sorry. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for giving me this honor of being part of the group again. It's wonderful to see you all here, happy, and inshallah you'll always be safe and healthy. We go back to basics, I suppose, and it's month of Ramadan that's coming. I know I have bored you enough last time regarding the Salah. Hopefully this time I'll try to make it a little bit more interesting. But when it comes to Ramadan, there's so many, subhanAllah, there's so many different issues about this beautiful month. I clearly remember myself, and Alhamdulillah, I've managed to see the same with so many of my cousins, nephews, and nieces, and my own children, that they love the thought of Ramadan from childhood. And the first thing about it is the abnormality of the hours that you eat in. Obviously, the iftar time will most probably be around the usual dinner, but in most towns. But the suhoor is unique, and that's being woken up at 1:30, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on the timing, obviously, in the morning, to have something to eat with the rest of the family, and most of them are half asleep. So it's fun in a way. But that's how we used to see it, and they see it as very, very young children at the age of maybe 5 or 6 or 7. But there's much more to do to the month of Ramadan than just being woken up for suhoor. It's like if we think about it, like a farm as part of our life. When you want to start using this land to actually get fruit out of it, or whatever crops that you have planned to make good use of at the end of the year, there has to be a point in throughout that year to prepare this land and have it ready for results. If we look at month of Ramadan during the year of our life like that, then our thinking, our thoughts will be diverted from thinking about food and drinking to something totally different. Especially now we have just under a week left to month of Ramadan. If we look at ourselves and think of this farm, this, and I'm talking about myself, but for a whole year we have left so many things behind, rusted. This ground has become so solid at some points because we did not look after, I did not look after my soul. I did not look after my inner self. And it just went on without being noticed. Now, if I want to make good use of this ground, I have to cultivate it. I have to do things to prepare for the seed and prepare for the growth of this future crop. That is, if I'm looking for proper results, then in that scenario, I have to be looking forward to what to do, how to prepare myself for this holy month, how to sit with myself and not just physically, but emotionally, but spiritually, prepare myself, cultivate my mind, my heart, my thoughts on what am I going to do, how I will see myself during this month. A month that is covered with blessings. I mean, right now, everybody knows this joke that has been going around. It's like, since when you've been requested by your supervisors, employers, the government, everybody to sit at home and do nothing. Just don't leave the house. stay on the sofa. Since when our parents, I'm talking about myself and most of you, I'm sure the same, have allowed us just to sit on the sofa and do nothing? Obviously away from making use of the time, as in reading or writing or revising, doing something. Away from that, realistically, don't leave the house, just stay there for days and days and days. Now, this is already giving us a heads up into what we need to do for ourselves, to sit and to think and to prepare ourselves for this wonderful month, a month that every hour of it, every minute of it, every second of it, every breath we take, even sleeping, is a blessing. نومكم فيه عبادة, أنفاسكم فيه تسبيح. I mean, what else do you want? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have a hadith Qudsi, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, in the hadith, it says, As-sawmu li wa ana ujazi bih. That means fasting is for me, for my sake, and I am the one who gives you that reward. Now, a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a reward that we get from our parents. It's not a reward that we get from our teachers, tutors, university lecturers. It's totally different. He's rewarding us for every breath during this holy month. He's rewarding us for our sleep. Like, who would reward you just to go and sleep? Like I said, nowadays, obviously, they are forcing you to stay at home, but they're not telling you to sleep. But you don't get paid for that. Well, in Allah's case, you do during the month of Ramadan. Now, any extra thing that we do, any extra action that we take during this month, away from breathing and sleeping and reading Quran, it's all added bonus, a bonus from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. But there are conditions. When we look at Quran and we look at dua and how we prepare ourselves, there are certain rules to it. Even when it comes to doing thinking, there are certain rules to it. You have to be ready to do the thinking. I'm sure most of you, or all of you, have read about abstract thinking and concrete thinking. One is, abstract thinking is obviously in a summary of it, is to prepare, to develop, to be able to actually innovate with your thoughts. Whereas concrete thinking is all about doing the physical part, turning thoughts and planning into implementing them basically into reality. Now, these steps, one after the other, they need hard work. For the dua, we have tools. The tools for the dua are the hands, which you either hold up to the sky or you hold the book in front of you. There's the eyes that have to read and look at the dua. And there's the mouth, the tongue, that spells out these words and the sentences. Now, if I have not prepared my eyes, my mouth, my tongue, my hands for this dua, then how likely is it that the angels will carry this dua? Because according to the Quran, the dua has to be carried up to the skies, to where it gets processed and confirmed or affirmed, or, he knows his job. But how would the angels come close to me if I have dirty hands? Again, we go back to current situation. I know we've been told this from young age, always constantly wash your hands and clean yourself and brush your teeth and make sure you're all clean and nice and tidy. But right now, who would go close to anybody else if they haven't washed their hands and if they haven't disinfected their clothes and their body? And this is just a simple earthly example, but imagine all of that. Angels coming to us, they want to take the dua with them. How would they realistically look at us? If I have not prepared myself, if I'm not clean, if I have not detached myself from so many wrongdoings, then this dua will be getting to the angels with great difficulty. A lot of kind of zigzagging has to happen before the dua is handed over to the angels. Now I know I'm trying to visualize this issue of the dua and handing it over to the angels, but it's in a way, in a sense, it's acceptable. Part of our teachings and the riwayat and the hadith that we have do explain that this is what happens. There are angels who carry it. And there are other du'as that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly deals with. But still, do I want to be facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with my du'a and have issues? Now, how do I keep myself clean? Yes, physically, washing and brushing and all that. But realistically, what's behind it and what we don't see, those bacteria that we don't see, are translated into our actions. Me avoiding, well, I have a week now. Whatever I have done in the past, may Allah help me with, but I have a week now, less than a week, to prepare myself to avoid backbiting, to avoid lying, to avoid carrying other people's sins. And when we say carrying other people's sins, it's the Imams, Salamullah alayhim ajma'in, they have all mentioned this. They said it's such a loss in trade when we look at ourselves, and a person could be walking, and this is part of a riwayah, a person could be walking with a whole mountain of thawab and goodies and good work with him or her, and just because he or she were not careful and they started talking about somebody, backbiting, and backbiting is simply saying things, it's not lying, it's that's a different story. It's stating facts about somebody who, if they hear it, they will be upset. That's backbiting, basically. Because if you say something, if I say something about somebody that's not true, then that will become tuhma. It's been a different story altogether. But avoiding that, because when I do backbite, the whole of that mountain of good work, a'mal salihah, wal-'iyadhu billah, gets transferred to the person who I have done their backbiting. And God forbid, even worse, their bad deeds come to me. So it's a losing trade, and it's something that we really have to be careful with. Similarly with so many other issues, I don't want to go too far into this, but it's all about preparing yourself. It's all about, I have now a few days to make sure, if I want to enter month of Ramadan, if I want this land to be ready for the seeds, for the blessings, for the rain that comes, the rahmah ilahiyya that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I have to do something about it. Then I have to prepare, I have to cultivate, I have to remove all the dirt, I have to remove all the rocks and prepare myself for this whole month of blessings. Now, when it comes to thinking, I know that the thoughts can take you and take us to food, and so many questions rise, including can I break my fast because I have an exam tomorrow and I cannot concentrate if I'm fasting? Now, scientifically, it's been proven otherwise, that when we are fasting, the blood cells are doing their job, their normal function, so they're keeping us alert, and as a matter of fact, they even get more to the brain than getting into the stomach and the intestines, because when you eat, obviously a whole lot of blood rush comes down to the intestines and the stomach. But if we say, oh, I cannot concentrate, but you have already had, if you make sure for suhoor you wake up and you have what's needed, if you're a coffee kind of addict or tea addict, then have that in the morning and make sure, as in suhoor time, and make sure you have plenty of it, so that in a few hours time, so if you're realistically having your suhoor at 2 or 3, then by 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning when you have your exam, then you should be fine. It shouldn't be a difficult issue. Or studying as well. Once we concentrate on, oh, because I am not eating or I'm not drinking, then therefore things will go wrong, we have transferred this blessing of month of Ramadan into what? Into the opposite. It's become, to us, not a blessing. It's become, wal-'iyadhu billah, hardship. Now, this is not what Ramadan is about. So we realistically have to make sure that when we talk about fasting, we talk about blessings, because Allah says it's for me. Now we're dealing with Allah. The other issue, away from the fasting part, there have been people, so many people talking about, I cannot fast these whole long hours. Again, the same thing. We have had kids, we have had elderlies, we have had patients, we've had people who have been unwell, and they have done hours and hours of fasting. It's to do with how you prepare yourself for the month of Ramadan. It's not about, oh, I decide halfway through, I cannot really, I don't feel I can fast tomorrow, therefore I will not fast tomorrow. Now you have already eliminated that blessing out of your month, out of your day, and it's become something else. So again, I go back to basics, I go back to square one, and that is, we prepare ourselves for month of Ramadan. We make sure that our intention is to do the whole month of Ramadan, unless something extreme happens where then it's unavoidable. For ladies it's different than for men, but again, if we fall sick, if something major happens, God forbidden, health-wise, or if we travel, necessarily something important happens and we have to travel for less than 10 days, then that's another issue. But in total, in general, we prepare ourselves. In general, we have to be ready for this month. Now, I have got so many narrations and so many ahadith for this month, and some of them are just superb. There is a narration from one of the close followers, ashab of Imam Jafar Sadiq sallallahu wasalam alayhi, and he asks a beautiful question. He says, "Oh my Imam, the ashab of the Prophet, the very close companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Miqdad, like Abu Dhar, like Malik al-Ashtar, like Hamza."
Sorry, Sayid, your mic's been muted.
Okay, is that better now?
That's fine now. That's fine now.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I go back to the narration, the hadith. One of the companions of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he asks, he says, the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were with the best of the prophets. They lived in the wonderful land, Mecca and Medina. They did all the a'mal with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They did all the jihad, all the battles, everything they did with the Prophet step by step. And most of them, they've received the shahada, they were martyred. Now, they are obviously now in paradise with the Prophet again, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is there now, this is the question, is there anything about this earth that they feel like coming back to? And the Imam says, yes, there is one thing. And that is for them to come back to this earth so they could fast month of Ramadan in the heat of summer. Now, heat of summer is talking about Saudi Arabia. Heat of summer, we're talking about 55 degrees centigrade in some areas. Sometimes they say it's 60, but they don't announce it officially. But imagine that kind of heat, and them fasting and working, not sleeping. That's what they miss, because obviously they don't have that in paradise. They do not have that in heaven, in Jannah, in the next life. There are no duties, no religious duties to do over there. So that's what they miss. And this on its own should give us the understanding of how much we have to be careful about our thinking of this holy month, how much we have to be ready for all these blessings that those companions have on their mind, just to come back so that they could get more of those blessings. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, and he's talking about all these wonders that we have in our lives, but he says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. He's talking about the day of judgment. Okay, well, there is mal, wealth, and there is children, and these are all important. These are all facts of life that we have around us, and we need them to move forward, to make our lives and the future better. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the day of judgment, none of this, no wealth, no children, will be of any benefit to us, except for one thing. إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. Now this clean heart, this healthy heart, this accepting heart, قلب السليم, how does that happen? It can only happen by us working our way around our day-to-day, working around ourselves and what is happening with us, how we can mend things, how we can clean ourselves, how we can make things better than yesterday, than the day before, than last year, than last month. This is something that we have to really, really go deep into and think about and prepare ourselves for. This month of Ramadan will give us a head start into next year. Part of the month of Ramadan is Night of Qadr. The Night of Qadr, unfortunately, I'm sure by now you're all used to my icebreakers. I have constant icebreakers in between. Night of Qadr has been translated sometimes by mistake quite a lot of times. Night of Power, which the person who's translated it, they have made a little mistake in Arabic. Qadr is different than Qudra. Qudra is strength and power, but Qadr is destiny, and that's different. The Nights of Qadr, our next year, everything that will come to us next year will be written. And those Nights of Qadr happen towards the end, the last 10 days of month of Ramadan. So again, not only preparing ourselves now, but also we have up until the 19th of Ramadan to get even more and more closer towards what is expected from us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and prepare ourselves more so that this night of Qadr, the 3 nights, one of them will give us the effect and we have the best written for us for the whole of next year. And inshallah, this will happen to all of us. This will happen to every single one of you, to be able to receive these blessings for the whole month, to receive the values, the goodness, this amazing result for the whole year to come, inshallah. I don't know how long. I did not concentrate on the timing, so I don't know how long I've kept you all on this kind of tiring session, but I think I'll stop here and we'll go to, inshallah, the questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them accordingly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for putting up with me.
Thank you so much. Useful. I had something that I want to ask. So on the topic of Tarawih prayers, I know that's not typically a Shia thing, but do we have like a version of that as Shias, or another prayer that we perform after Isha during Ramadan?
Thank you for that question. The Tarawih are literally prayers, extra prayers that you can do not only in the month of Ramadan, but you can do in any other time as well. These extra prayers are the ones that get us closer, because we have those compulsory prayers, the wajib prayers, which are the morning, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. But anything more than that we do is something that will take us even a step further into life. Now, the Taraweeh came during the month of Ramadan because everybody was doing Quran and Dua, and they wanted to do Salah, extra Salahs as well. That is acceptable. We have that in the Shia as well, not with the name Taraweeh. Okay, we have Nawafil, and we have special salats for every single night. They are mentioned in the Mafatih al-Jinan, and we can make good use of them. But the issue of Taraweeh came when the second Khalif came to the mosque to see, and this is a full narration in the riwayah. He came and he saw people praying, two praying on this side, one praying here, one praying there. Obviously, they're praying for Rada, each one praying for themselves. And he suggested that they all pray together as Jama'ah. Now, when Jama'ah happened, he liked the idea, and he said, he said, Na'mal bid'ah, which is something that he really liked. And since then, this has been called the Taraweeh, and they do it in gathering, is in Jama'ah. So realistically, we can do our Salah according to Mafatih al-Janan. There's a special number of rak'ats each night that we can do during month of Ramadan, but not in Jama'ah.
Thank you so much. I would like to mention that we really encourage audience participation during this Q&A. We have a live chat on the YouTube page if anybody would like to ask anything, or if anybody would like to join the call. We also have some questions that people have asked us through polls. So one question that came to us was that often people develop amazing habits in Ramadan only to watch them disappear once the month is over. How does somebody stimulate these habits during and after Ramadan is over to make the changes permanent and sustainable? So how can we prolong the benefits of Ramadan after Ramadan is over?
Yes, that's fantastic. To be honest, it's this is realistically again to do with how we prepare ourselves. If we are well prepared before month of Ramadan, then it's more likely that it will stay with us, and it will be prolonged, and hopefully it will stay with us for the rest of the year. But if we take Ramadan as just, that's it, month of Ramadan, I have to do this. If we take it as a kind of constraint, it's like it's something that I have to do and get on with it and get rid of it. It's a month that I have to fast and then goodbye, finish and done with. Then naturally, once the month is over, all those good deeds will, unfortunately, at some point for people, will stop. So we have to, I think my advice will be that we have to think before we do our fasting, before we start our month. We think, do we know what we're doing? Do we want to make sure that this blessing of this month stays with us for the whole year, or no, just we just want to take it? And the same thing with Salah and so many other issues as well that we have around us. If you think of Salah as in, oh, it's Salah time, looking at the Salah time, let's just go and do the Salah and get it out of the way, as a burden. If you're looking at it as a burden, then naturally it will disappear as soon as you finish the Salah. Nothing will be left with you, with us. So my advice will be realistically, yes, just sit and think, really think hard what Ramadan is about, what am I going to do, and just do a long-term planning. You're all, mashallah, wonderful students, and you have done this for your studies. So, for the year, you know what's coming next year and how you plan for what to do next year. And that's why when you ask students, sometimes they tell you, oh, first year is easy, second year is no, third year, because naturally you have planned or not planned. And for some, second year will be an easy one. Second year for others will be a difficult one, because again, it depends on how they have prepared themselves for it. So that's my advice, to be honest.
Thank you so much for that. It's a really good point. Obviously, during Ramadan, and you mentioned it's recommended to recite Quran more during this time. And we had a question come in if there is any thematic studies of the Quran that you recommend for self-development during Ramadan.
That's fantastic. A month of Ramadan is definitely they call it Rabi' al-Quran, is the spring for Quran. It's the best time to read as much Quran as possible. But reading Quran, my personal experience from what I've learned as well from my father and grandfather and all the ulamas, is realistically concentrating on the Holy Quran, on the wordings, not just quickly kind of whizzing through and getting it out of the way again, like so many other things, just because, I want to finish recitation of the Quran. Reading the Quran and making sure that you do, for example, a certain amount every day is very good, but understanding it is very, very important. And I personally advise, do not, if you have not done Quran studies before, do not think of reciting the Quran in kind of speedy way and get it out of the way. Think of using ulum al-Quran. For some people, and it really goes with the way I have noticed that it really helps, hopefully. Different people like it different ways. You might be interested to see how many, for example, how many times Quran has mentioned a certain word. Yes, so do some research into that. How many times Quran has mentioned, for example, Jannah or Nar or man, woman. How does Quran look at gender, for example? Look at specific issues. How does Quran look at gender, for example, in its context? How does Quran look at our behavior towards one another? How does Quran look at race? So many issues that you can come up with and make it interesting for yourselves, for ourselves, because we are all different. Some people love just the qira'ah of the Quran, so they do this beautiful recitation, but that's very good. But at the same time, try and concentrate and make use of a little bit of understanding, even as simple as looking at small surahs. Surah Al-Fatiha, I remember once I was reciting and I asked the boys and girls, I said, can you tell me what you understood from Surah Al-Fatiha? Because Surah Al-Fatiha tells us so much about people. And they were shocked to know that Surah Al-Fatiha, just a surah that we recite every day, 5 times, 5 prayers, 10 times a day at least, because we have to repeat it in the first 2 rak'ats. So 10 times a day at least we do Surah Al-Fatiha. But just think about it, the number of times we repeat it, but went unnoticed that the Quran has divided people in Surah Al-Fatiha. There is صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, and then غير المغضوب عليهم, and then ولا الضالين. 3 different sections, 3 different groups that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned already in Surah Al-Fatiha, which we can concentrate on. And who is أنعمت عليهم? Who are the blessed people? Who are the ones who are والعياذ بالله ضالين? And who are the ones who are مغضوب عليهم? 3 different groups, and why he's mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in such style. So it's the options are there, but really you have to decide for yourself on how you feel you're more comfortable to get on with it. But as long as you concentrate more on the meaning and on the understanding of the ayat and the verses of the Quran.
Thank you so much for that. It was really interesting what you said about looking at specific words and how often they come up in the Quran. I never really thought to look at the Quran in that way. So thank you so much for that. I'll invite Abbas to the call. He has a question that he'd like to ask you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much for your talk. I just had a question. If in previous Ramadans, is there one particular action or dua that you have recited that has increased your spirituality or has had a big personal effect for you? And if you don't mind sharing that with us.
Thank you for that question. It's wonderful. As a matter of fact, the dua al-iftitah that we recite after breaking our fast and after doing Salat al-Maghrib and Isha and breaking fast, then there's this dua al-iftitah that's commonly recited after the Maghrib and Isha and after the iftar. It's amazing. It has words that if you concentrate on it, relieves you from so much inner stress. One of the very well known parts of the dua, which says, وَلَعَلَّ الَّذِي أَبْطَعَ عَنِّي هُوَ خَيْرٌ لِي لِعِلْمِكَ بِعَاقِبَةِ الْأُمُورِ. And it's just amazing. It simply says, and it's only a small part of the dua. It's not a very long dua. You can recite it within 10, 15 minutes. It says, وَلَعَلَّ الَّذِي أَبْطَعَ عَنِّي. Maybe, that is the translation, maybe what has been delayed, what blessing that has been delayed from me is better for me, because you know what's best for me. And it gives you that inner peace. If you repeat it, you've been repeating it for 29 or 30 days during the month of Ramadan every night, and you say, that should really give me a sense that throughout the year, whatever happens, if I'm sitting there, it's like, oh Allah, I really want this, I really want this, I really want this, but it doesn't happen. It should not suddenly kind of bring me down and say, oh, Allah is not accepting my dua, then there is something wrong. No, Allah is giving me something else. He doesn't want this for me because it's not good for me. And that dua continues, and praise to Allah comes later on, saying that, oh Allah, give me the chance to be part of the Hujjaj of your house, and this year and every year. So it has a combination, it has a different aspect to it, and you'll be asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that guidance. You'll be asking Allah to give you a chance to become a Haji again and again, and to give you patience, to give you all those blessings. So I think that's my advice. It's just a fantastic dua that I advise you to go by, dua iftitah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sayid.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
So thank you for your talk today. I think it's been really insightful. You've mentioned focusing on your salah, focusing on the basics, and like understanding the Quran you recite every day. And then, of course, on a personal note, you noted that dua al-iftitah was something that's been really beneficial for you. But for our youth, what would you recommend them they start on with? Like, which a'mal, for many a'mal should they start on? If they've already looked at their salah and looked at their Quran, after that, what should they look at?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. To be honest, it's really amazing that I see so much interest, and I see so much from our youth and our friends and brothers and sisters, and it really fascinates me. It makes me, it does bring tears to my eyes, and it really makes me happy. May Allah bless you all for this, because we have one line that we have to hold on to, and it's the rope, as they call it, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. But concentrating on, away from that, concentrating on history is what I would suggest if you do get a chance to look at, because you understand so much from history. When I say history, as in stories of the Quran, stories of the prophets, stories of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They're alhamdulillah available as books, as ebooks, as films on the internet, clips and articles. So it's something which, and I'm not saying it because I feel like telling you read stories. No, it's something that we have been advised as part of the Quran, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does say in the Quran that it gives you ahsan al-qasas, the best of stories, the best of experiences. And part of the experiences are what has happened to our prophets, what has happened to our imams alayhim salam, and the stories of the Quran itself, which are amazing. Sometimes when you read these different happenings that happened to not only humans but to animals, to fruits, to trees, to the whole nature, you will be amazed by the science behind it. And I know nowadays people come up every now and then and say, oh, this is mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago. Why nobody said anything about it? It's realistically because not many people dug very hard into it. I mean, when they're talking, for example, about flying to the skies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already mentioned in the Quran that a person who is going through hardship and difficulty and making life difficult for himself is causing it like as if he's going up. The pressure on his chest is as if he's going up to the skies. This is the translation that he uses. كأنه يصعد إلى السماء. Now, we all know that if a normal person, as you go up and up, higher and higher on the mountains or on a plane, as you keep going up, you reach a point where our chests cannot take that pressure anymore. Things like this, you'll be making yourself well aware. You will amuse yourself and increase your knowledge. So that, I think that is something that we should really have that approach as well.
Thank you so much, Sayed. If is there any other questions coming in? I'll just check. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much for joining us, Sayed. That was an incredible talk. Thank you so much for answering our questions.
Jazakallah khair. It's purely my pleasure. Really wish you wonderful time, inshallah. You all prepare yourselves for this holy month, and be sure that there's so much blessings in this month that is unbelievable. And one thing that will really help in this 1 week to come to month of Ramadan, my final advice is, as much as you can, keep doing istighfar different times. Whenever you're not reading anything or you're not talking, basically you have your hands are busy or you're typing, whatever, and you're not talking, you can do istighfar. So astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Keep repeating that, and it has an amazing effect, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again talks about this istighfar in the Holy Quran, which brings you a lot of extra blessings, and not only forgives sins, but also it increases knowledge and increases wealth, health, everything, preparation for the month. So do istighfar as much as possible. Astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh. It doesn't have to be loud. You can say it within kind of yourselves, and inshallah you will all have a happy and wonderful month and year to come, inshallah. Thank you again for giving me the honor of being with you. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Sayed.
Ahsanta. Thank you very much. Inshallah, we see you soon. All the best to you. Ma salama.
Thank you to everybody for joining us. inshallah, everybody benefited from that greatly. Thank you again, Sayed.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Assalamu.
Salam.